Okay, so you're decided you're done swiping online to meet women and you're gonna take your dating life into your own hands and actually talk to women in real life. Good. That part is easy. The hard part is what comes next. Because right after that decision, you enter the most dangerous phase of this entire journey. I call it the graveyard. I'm talking about the first 100 approaches. This is the zone where about 90 to 95% of the guys fail and quit. Not because they're weak, not because they're broken, but because they don't know how to survive this phase. And if you cross this barrier, your dating life changes permanently. But if you don't, you go back to the apps, excuses, and maybe someday. So in this video, I'll show you 5 steps on how to survive your first 100 approaches and how to become part of that small minority of men who actually make it through. So the first step to surviving your first 100 approaches is starting small. One of the biggest mistakes guys make in the beginning is going all in too fast. You go to a bar or a nightclub and in your head you're like, okay, I'm going to approach a lot of people today, and it sounds good in theory, but here's the problem. In the beginning, you're not very good yet. So most of those interactions are going to be rejections. And on top of that, you're going to completely burn yourself out. You exhaust all your energy on day 1 or on day 2, and then after that, it feels impossible to repeat the process. You don't want to go out again because it feels too daunting, and that's how most guys quit. Look, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. If you sprint on day 1, you're not going to have the energy to do all the 100 approaches. You'll be done mentally before you even started. So instead, you need to think much smaller in the beginning. On your first day, especially if you have a big approach anxiety like most of you guys have, your goal literally might be this. Go out and talk to one person. That's it. One, depending on how strong your anxiety is, that interaction could be as simple as asking for directions or giving a very basic compliment. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive, just one interaction. And for you, that one interaction might take 1 or 2 hours. You'll walk around, you'll probably hesitate, you will overthink, and that's normal. That's part of the process. But if you do that on day 1, you win because you went out, you put on your clothes, you stepped outside in the world, you interacted with that one person. That's day 1 done. Check. And then you go home and then you plan your day 2. This is not about solving everything in one day. Like Rome wasn't built in one day, and your confidence won't be either. Day 1 is not about results. Day 1 is about starting the process. You're not there to fix your entire dating life in one single evening. You're there to begin the process. Now, the second step of surviving your first 100 approaches is honestly one of the most important ones, and most guys completely fail here. Step 2 is consistency. I've seen this pattern over and over and over again. A guy goes out once, maybe has a decent day, maybe he talks to a few girls, maybe he even gets a number, and then he's so emotionally burned out that he doesn't go out again for weeks, and that's the best case scenario. In most cases, however, a guy goes out once on day 1, gets rejected a few times, nothing happens, and then he disappears for many months, and that completely kills the progress. Because this is not about one good day, it is about frequency. I've had guys tell me, yeah, I've done like 100 approaches, and then when I look closer, those 100 approaches happen over 2 or 3 years, and that's the problem. The issue is not the total number of approaches, it's the time frame. If you go out once a month, that's not enough. Once every 2 weeks, still not enough. Once a week, also not enough. At minimum, you should be going out at least 3 times a week. Take any skill, gym, learning a language, playing an instrument. If you practice less than 3 times a week, you're basically lying to yourself about wanting results. And if you really want to get good, ideally you should be doing this almost every day. And that's why starting small matters so much, because we're not just training approaches, we're training consistency. We're training the habit of getting yourself outside your house, even when you don't feel like it. Early on, the quality of approach doesn't matter as much because the real enemy in the beginning is not saying the wrong thing. It's the avoidance, it's disappearance after one bad session. If you set small goals that you can repeat, you can build momentum. And once you have momentum, everything else becomes easier. Now, the third step of surviving your first 100 approaches is setting the right goal. Most guys go into this with the wrong goal to start with. In their head, they're thinking, okay, I'm going to do this hard thing, so the payoff has to be a date or at least a number. That's what they're thinking. That's what they're going forward. But here's the reality. If this is your first few times talking to women you don't know and doing cold approach, getting a date is going to be extremely difficult. For most guys, it's basically impossible. Now, you might get lucky once if you meet the right girl on the right day, but that is luck, and luck is something that you cannot repeat. So when you set a goal like, hey, I need to get a date, you set yourself up for failure. You don't hit that goal and then you feel like you did badly and then you quit. Same with getting numbers. Getting a number early on is also hard. And even worse, you can technically talk to a girl for, let's say, 10 seconds, ask them for an Instagram, and she might give it to you. But that means nothing. 10-second conversation and a bunch of dead Instagrams is not progress. So that cannot be your goal. The goal in the beginning is literally the approach itself. Literally that you go up to someone, open your mouth, say a few words, don't pee your pants, that counts as a win. I know it sounds ridiculous, but for most of you guys watching this, the approach anxiety is way too heavy. It's like really, really heavy. So just walking up, getting the words out, and staying present for a few seconds, that is success at this stage. And once that becomes easier, then you can level up your goal. Not to get numbers or dates, but to start doing more quality approaches. You start asking yourself better questions. Okay, was my posture confident? Did I hold good eye contact? Was my voice calm and slow? Did I feel grounded? Those are the things that you should be tracking. Don't worry about the outcomes yet. Don't worry about the numbers and dates yet. All that adds is extra pressure and make you quit. So set the right goal, focus on execution, and everything else will come later. The fourth step is that you need to finish your first 100 approaches within 2 months maximum. And this is where a lot of guys mess up. The obvious danger is quitting. Everyone knows that. But there's a second danger that's just as bad. That's you doing the 100 approaches, but it takes you forever, many months, sometimes even years. And if that happens, you don't actually make that much progress. You're just checking boxes. And that's why the time frame matters. You need two things working together: consistency and gradual pressure. Consistency means you going out at least 3 times a week, minimum, not once a week, not twice a week, 3 times a week as a baseline, and then you gradually push yourself more and more. So maybe on day 1, you do 1 approach. That's fine. Next time you do 2, then 2 again, then 3, then maybe 4. You don't jump from 1 to 10, you slowly increase the load. And that combination is what allows you to finish the 100 approaches in a reasonable time. If you take more than 2 months to complete this task, the stimulus is too weak. Imagine going to the gym for 6 months and doing in all that time frame 100 push-ups total. Did you technically do 100 push-ups? Sure. But did you get stronger? Well, obviously not. There wasn't enough frequency. There wasn't enough pressure. And approaching women and learning this works the same way. If it takes you 3 or 4 months to finish 100 approaches, you weren't consistent enough. You weren't pushing yourself enough. And then when you say, oh, I did my 100 approaches, but nothing changed, well, that's why. So set the rule now. 1 month is great. A month and a half is fine. 2 months is the absolute maximum. And anything longer than that means that you're dragging out, you're protecting your comfort zone, and slowing down your own progress. So finish the 100 approaches fast enough that your nervous system actually adapts. And that's how you get real change. And once you've done all that, this is what happens. You finish your 100 approaches within 2 months, you survive them. That alone already puts you ahead of most guys out there. And now comes the final and the 5th step. And this is where a lot of logical, analytical guys actually have a pretty big advantage. You analyze your numbers. Ideally, in these 2 months, you track everything, literally in an Excel spreadsheet. Which day you went out, how many approaches you did, nothing fancy. This is just data. And this is where your brain gets to relax a little bit, because now you're not guessing anymore. You're looking at patterns. You might notice something like, oh, well, I went out on Monday and then I didn't go out for a full week again. Now that's a problem. Or you might notice early on that you approach only on the weekends and then you completely disappear on the weekdays. Okay, cool. Now you know exactly what you need to work on and what you need to fix. If you don't track this, you can't learn, and you'll just repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again and wonder why nothing is changing. And here's another thing you should track: how long it takes you each day for you to complete your approaches. In the beginning, it might take you 3 or 4 hours just to do 1 or 2 approaches. That's normal, that's fine. But by the end of the month, that time should be way, way lower. If it still takes you 2 hours to do 2 approaches after weeks of practice, that's a signal. Something needs to adjust. The first 100 approaches are not about becoming amazing. They're about not drowning. Think of it like being thrown in the water. You're not going to become Michael Phelps, and that's not the goal. You're just learning not to sink. This is genuinely one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But that's exactly why the rewards are so big. Confidence, self-esteem, a dating life where you can meet amazing, beautiful women in real life on demand while everyone else is swiping on apps, arguing about algorithms, or using AI-generated photos. So don't forget what you're actually doing here. You're doing something extremely hard on purpose. And if you stick with it long enough without quitting, it will pay you back more than almost anything you've ever done. And finally, if you'd like more step-by-step instruction and help on how to survive your first 100 approaches and do it with the help of someone who has been doing it for 12 years, my one-on-one mentorship might be interesting for you. I coach guys from all over the world to do exactly this by giving them a step-by-step instructions, live feedback on their conversations, and accountability they've been missing. And you have introverted, logical, shy guys breaking through this barrier of social anxiety, talking to attractive women, and actually landing real dates. If you're curious to learn more, check out the first link in the description.